Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with another Giallo film. And that is Lamberto Bava's 1983 A Blade in the Dark, also known as The House with the Dark Staircase. Now the back of this says, essential viewing for Italian horror fans. It's a shame they don't make them like this anymore. Mondo Digital. I'm not going to say this is a terrible movie, like awful, you should avoid it. But this is by far the weakest Giallo I've ever seen. Granted, I know I don't have the biggest collection. There's a shit ton out there that I'm missing. But even by Argento, there's a bunch I'm missing. But there's not much to this. I mean, originally, and like Lamberto Bava, the son of Mario Bava, I think his father cast a giant shadow that he wasn't able to get out of. So maybe that's why his films kind of paled in comparison, I should say. I mean, this is only the second one I've seen by him. The other one is Demons. And I mean, Demons isn't a Giallo. That's just a balls to the wall fun movie. I haven't seen Macabre. But this is Blue Underground. This is completely uncut, uncensored. Of course, the Arrow release, the transfer is going to be much better. But pretty much the story is there's this guy named Bruno, played by Andrea Occhipinti. Probably pronounced that wrong. He was in The New York Ripper, a solid Giallo by Lucio Fulci, which I'll get to. He's a film music composer hired on a score this new horror film, which the score is pretty solid, I'll give it that. And he rents this isolated villa so he can concentrate, and all this weird shit starts happening. Like, first, this neighbor girl named Katia shows up, and she acts really weird and bizarre. And then her diary turns up and says, like, I know the secret about Linda. And then, of course, she's killed. She's killed with an X-Acto knife. And I mean, her scenes are kind of silly. I mean, to start off, the dubbing is terrible. The dubbing does not sync up with the lips at all. But, like, she's outside, and the killer comes out. And, like, I know in slasher films, female characters, like, run away and trip over nothing. She, like, backs into this post, and she does a lot of this, like, falling over it, and, like, slow motion, like, ah. And she even, like, runs up to a door, screaming, I swear this is what she said. She said, like, help, help, I need saving. It's very corny. I mean, the dialogue and voice acting is very hokey in this. I mean, especially compared to other ones. I mean, it's not always the best, unless it's a movie like Crystal Plumage, like, or something. Which actually the movie opens up with these three boys in sort of this haunted type house. And they dare this one boy, they throw a ball down this dark staircase and they say, go get the ball to show you're not scared. Then they keep saying, you're a female, till he goes and does it. And the boy that does it is, once again, I can't remember his name, but Bob from House by the Cemetery, who was also in Demons. How many fucking movies is Bob in? And you hear him scream, so finally, I was like, oh, Bob finally got killed. I mean, I know he's a young kid, but Bob was annoying as shit in the House by the Cemetery. But then it cuts to them in the editing room, or rather Bruno in the house scoring it. So, that's just a movie. So Bob didn't really get killed. And, originally this was going to be a TV movie with 4 parts, with each one ending in a murder. But they deemed it too gory for television. Which, I mean, I guess for television in 83 or whatever, it came out in 83. I could kind of see why maybe that wouldn't be too good for television, but it's not particularly gory. I mean, I didn't expect like a Fulci level, but I mean, it's just bloody, and it's not like the most bloodiest one is probably when the next girl gets killed, the friend of Katia. This girl Angela, she goes swimming in the pool, finds the X-Acto knife, and then she goes in the bathroom to like wash her hair in the sink, and the killer like stabs her hand into the table, puts like a bag over her head, and like when you see the side view, the killer's doing like this slow, like bad acting thing. But when you see the killer's view, and it's obviously a dummy, it's like vicious, like bashing the head. And puts her over the tub, slits her throat, and you get some good blood spray. So that scene. But really, all the other scenes, like, they're not much to the kills. And basically, between the diary that Bruno finds, he goes out for a cigarette, walks near a bush, gets blood on his pants from where Katia's body got dragged. And he's basically kind of, everyone thinks he's going crazy because he thinks there really is a killer. It's like, why do these girls keep coming to the house and then just disappearing? Because the killer always cleans up. I didn't even mention Katia's death. She finally finds this room where like the wall's undone, there's like chicken wire and unfinished insulation. She like hides behind the chicken wire so you can still see her. Of course, the X-Acto knife can't get all the way through, but it can where her stomach is. Guts her, just a little bit of blood. And then she dies like up against the chicken wire. Kind of silly looking. And so yeah, he's like, well, the diary. He goes back inside, and the diary's ripped up. His recording reels for the scores all fucked up. The diary was thrown in the fire. So he thinks someone's sort of after him, figuring out the truth. His girlfriend Julia, who's an actress, kind of looks like Jamie Presley, but they kind of bicker back and forth. She doesn't believe his stories and that he's going overboard. And the director of the film is this woman named Sandra. And I don't want to spend too much time on this movie. Basically, you find out some of it's based on a true story. And the only other people this movie shows is there's the guy that owns the house that makes a couple appearances. And then there's the caretaker, I think Giovanni, who they really make out to be the killer. He peeps on the girl swimming, he peeps on her changing. His room is full of cutouts of porno mags. Even shows him sort of grinning and snickering while he's cutting up a newspaper article of kills. Murders that probably happened somewhere else because we don't see them, and no one knows about these ones except Bruno, but no one believes him. And so the previous tenant is this woman named Linda, who even the owner of the house said she was kind of strange, but then everyone, including himself, said she was so nice and so sweet. And then even the director of the film, within the film, Sandra, knows Linda. It says it's been a few years since we've seen each other, and they hint that they might have had a relationship. And then, every time we see Linda, of course we don't see the face. It's typical slasher Giallo. You either see the feet or the hands doing something or walking. she's always sobbing and crying or laughing. That's all Linda does. And, you know, Linda, you find out that the film they're making is like partially, like, Sandra took certain events from Linda's life but then fictionalized the rest, and Linda's pissed off. But spoilers from here on out. I mean, if you have to see every Giallo or 80s horror film, go check it out. But, I mean, you might like it more than me. I thought this film was kind of weak and very boring. The kills, there's not much there. It's kind of a lame film. I don't hate it. It's just kind of disappointing. But anyway. So you find out that the killer is the owner of the house. Tony, I think his name was. Well, one thing, Bruno, he keeps wondering where the girls' bodies are. They don't turn up anywhere else. They don't turn up around the house. And people keep bitching about this stench by the pool. So this new purifier comes in, and Giovanni's, setting it up with the filter, finds the girls' bodies in the filter. And he gets killed with this lame, like, slow motion, bad acting wrench to the head. And, Sandra gets killed. Julia gets killed. And just very unmemorable. I literally just got done watching. It is still paused on the end credits on my TV. Went from the couch to here to talk about this. And it's already forgettable. It's nothing that sticks with you. And oh yeah, so like Linda goes to the editing place to cut up and fuck up the final reel of the film that will really expose his story and who he is. Which the weird thing is, no one realized that Linda was a guy in drag. Well, they never realized it was the owner of the house who drops in occasionally, but they couldn't realize it was a guy in drag. Especially Sandra, who you're supposed to believe they might have had a relationship together. Really? Jump to the end of the film. The very end, the last scene. You see in the final shot of the film, the one they're making, Bob, like the reason why the owner of the house dresses like Linda, his alter ego that kills. We see within the film that Bob, from the beginning of the movie, from House by the Cemetery, in fact didn't get killed. He in fact walks back up the stairs wearing girls' clothes and a very horrible wig. Because he kept being called a female for being scared. And in fact, when Tony, the owner, gets killed, he keeps croaking like, "I'm not a female child, I'm not a female." So, they pretty much chalk it up to, he was scared by something, got traumatized, created the alter ego of a woman, and he killed these girls to show that he wasn't scared. I mean, if I missed something, feel free to tell me, but it's only 109 minutes. It's not terribly long at all. I mean, some of my favorite movies are over 3 hours, but this felt long and boring. The characters weren't that engaging. The acting and the dubbing was pretty hokey. The dubbing was terrible. The only thing going for it was the score. It was a good Italian Giallo score. And really, the only death that was really somewhat interesting was the second girl, the one that went swimming and gets killed in the bathroom. Other than that, I didn't care for it that much. Again, I don't hate it. And I can only recommend it to people who really like Giallos, or really like Italian horror films, or 80s horror films, and have to see everything. I mean, maybe I missed something because I was pretty bored watching it. But I just explained the ending, and it wasn't terribly interesting. And that's all I have for it. So, for Room 237, A Blade in the Dark was pretty disappointing. Sorry, not the best review, but there wasn't much to say about it. But thank you anyway.